Hey Mini enthusiasts, how you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're having a great day and I hope you're all well. Today we're on Project Tardis and we're going to be working on the sills. Now this episode will probably get stretched out to 2 parts because I don't think we can cram it all into one. But what we're going to be doing is cleaning off the sills, checking them for rust and corrosion, sorting out any rust if there is any. We're then going to be preparing the sill, preparing the metal, painting them, body colouring them, stone chipping the sills, cavity waxing them, and just ensuring they're good for the future. So this is one of the sort of jobs where even if your sills are not corroded on your Mini, it's probably worth having a look at them, cleaning them off. It's worth stone chipping them, and it's certainly worth cavity waxing them because it is one of those areas on a Mini that is really prone to rust. It's probably one of the most likely places that you'll find rust on a Mini just because it is a box section and they rust from the outside in. So you can get stone chips on the sills that can propagate rust from the outside in. You get them rusting from the inside out where they get moisture inside. And there's just a few box section areas there that can collect moisture and rust and can cause you problems in the future. So it's really worth doing this anyway. Fingers crossed on Tardis. I had a look at the sills when I bought the car, and although there was some light rust on there, I think structurally it's solid. So I don't think I'm gonna have to do any welding on it, but let's clean them off and have a look first. And obviously, if there is any rust there, we shall treat it, neutralise it, and get it all back to pretty much perfect. So I wanted to talk about some of the tools and some of the products we're going to use to do this, because sometimes I just get on with these jobs and I think I have all the bits here ready to go, but when I start looking at the bits I use, there is actually quite a lot here. So for cleaning up the sill in the first place, we're going to be using like these wire wheels, wire cups. So I find these work the best just for cleaning off loose rust. They're really good. And then we shall be moving on to these strip discs for removing paintwork off the sill. So we'll be going back to bare metal on the sill, so I know that what I'm working with is good solid metal. Once we're back to bare metal, we will then use cure rust, which neutralises any existing rust that might be there. So there might be some sort of areas that are left over that you can't fully clean up with a wire wheel, but a bit of cure rust will neutralise anything that's left over. And then we're moving on to the sort of paint prep and the stone chip prep really. So first thing, any bare metal areas, we should be using etch primer. So that's 1K etch primer, and it acid etches itself to the steel. And yeah, it just makes a good base for any primers and paints going on over the top. Once we've done etch primer, we will be seam sealing. So we'll probably clean off some of the seam sealer that's already there to make sure there's no rust behind it. So we'll be using U-Pole grey stripe seam sealer just applied with a paintbrush. So that's really easy to use. Again, a great product that I've used plenty of times before. And then after seam sealing, we'll just go with standard issue sort of grey primer. And then we are on to stone chipping. Now what I use is this Gravitex HS Plus. It's made by U-Pole. It's relatively inexpensive, but it goes on really well. The coverage is brilliant. It's really hard wearing, and I've just never had any reactions with it or anything like that. I've used other stone chip protectants in the past and I've had all sorts of issues with them, but Gravitex works really well. And then once we've done the Gravitex, I think we get another coat of primer, and then we'll go on to body colour. Now I've actually run out of body colour for Tardis, so I'll have to get on to Paints for You, put in an order for them to get some more body colour, and then we'll body colour it as well. Some of the other things we're going to use just to make the job a bit easier, I'll talk about this in a moment, is some pre-taped masking paper. This is a really messy job, so you really want to make sure you mask the car up well. You don't want to get any overspray anywhere because stone chip is really hard to get off afterwards. So I find this makes the job a whole lot easier, a whole lot quicker. Pre-taped masking paper. I use for all sorts of things. So these are like the Scotch Brite finishing pads. These are like a medium pad. Again, they work really well. They're really easy to use. Scotch Brite actually is a product name of 3M products. So these are not 3M ones, but they are a cheaper alternative. But I find they work pretty well. And then finally, when we paint it and everything like that, we're going to cavity wax it. So we're going to go up inside the cavities with this insertion probe. So that can go right up inside the A pillar, up inside the B pillar. We go right up inside the flutes of the car. This nozzle on the end here sprays out in like 360 degrees. So you poke it up inside, start spraying and pull the insertion probe out. And by the time it comes out, you've covered everywhere inside the box section nicely. And the cavity wax we're using is made by Built Hamber. It's Dynax S50. So this is like the brown Dynax. They do the clear Dynax as well, which I'll talk about later. But this is about the best cavity wax you can get. That can's about 18 quid, I think, but it's quite a big can and it lasts pretty well. And then finally, you know, just, did I mention actually, cure rust. So any bare areas of metal, we shall use cure rust to neutralise any rust. That just goes on with a paintbrush. And then finally, it's just PPE. So breathing apparatus, a decent mask, some gloves, and we shall need goggles as well. So yeah, quite a busy episode this. Let's get into it. Let's get this job done. It's really worthwhile doing, especially on Tardis because they're a little bit crusty anyway. But like I say, if you've got a Mini anyway, it's one of those jobs that you want to do during the summer. Just have a look at the car. You might not need to go to these lengths, but certainly cleaning it off, cavity waxing up inside the sills is really going to be worth it and really prolong the life of your Mini. Right, so here we go, bit of a close-up of the sill. As you can see, it doesn't look nice. There's lots of rust there, but it is all just surface rust. Almost feels like a YouTuber cliche, that does, doesn't it? It's only surface rust. Let me get a corrosion assessment tool. So next time I hear a YouTuber say it's only surface rust, I want to see how brave they are and see what they mean by only surface rust, because only surface rust does sometimes seem code word for I really don't want to poke it around too much because I think it's going to make a hole. But genuinely on this, everywhere I can see rust, it's solid. Now I'm not going to go super crazy and I'm not going to get a hammer or anything because I don't want to dent the sills either. But when I say it is just surface rust, I am being quite genuine. So next step, it looks a bit crusty. I mean, if you left this for another year, couple of years, these would be holes. So we're going to get all this cleaned up. All I'm going to use is a wire cut brush. I just get these cheap ones from Wilkinson's. They're $3.75 each. Let me give that a clean up. I ain't going to film cleaning it up because that's rather boring, that. Let's give it a clean up and see what it looks like in a moment. Right, now, bit of advice. Although we're doing down there underneath, the whole car is covered again because it just makes a mess. And it's all about looking after the car. So what I use is just some magnets to hold the cover out the way. This is an old car cover, so it doesn't matter too much, but the stuff we're taking off there comes off in fine metal particles. It's like fine ferrous fallout. And I'll tell you what, if that gets on the paint and sits on the paint and then it gets a little bit sort of damp in the garage, anything that isn't rusty already will rust into the paintwork. That is why I always make sure the cars are always covered up in here. I mean, even things like, I should really move this bike out while I'm doing it. I might just put the towels over it. But it's just really important to be, when you're doing any sort of restoration work like this, just be tidy, methodical, cover everything up, because 5 minutes covering it up now will save hours later machine polishing the car to get all the iron particles out of the paint. And before anyone mentions it, I did just notice the wheel wasn't covered. So I actually use just they're neodymium magnets, so they're really powerful. You put them where you want and that'll cover that up. So let me get that cleaned up, and as I say, I'll show you the after shots because you ain't going to see much of me wire wheeling under there. So there we go, we've gone right back to bare metal now. Wasn't too bad, took about, I suppose, about an hour and a half by the time we jacked it all up. Combination of the wire wheel just to get the loose flaky stuff off, and then the strip disc to strip all the paint off. Like I say, I did check it before we go. There are no areas which have turned into holes. Some of them, clearly, you can see, you know, there is an ingrained bit of rust there. But, again, YouTube cliche, it's solid, but it is. You see me bash that really hard with a screwdriver. Pretty pleased with that. The next step is we're going to put Cure Rust over the whole lot, so it will turn all these areas that have got a little bit of ingrained rust. It will turn them black, neutralise that rust, and then we'll go in with some acid etch primer. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased. These are 38-year-old Sills. They are the original ones, and it looks like what I wanted really. We're gonna have a car that is completely unwelded, all original panels, never been welded. It's just a case of giving this a good treatment now, so it'll get cure rusted, etch primed, Gravitech stone chip, and then another coat of primer, and then body colour. So the outside of here will stay smooth. We'll only stone chip from the sill join down to the floor. But yeah, pretty pleased with that. Nice to find no holes. Obviously I haven't done the other side yet, so there's still a chance, but from what I can remember the other side, it looked just as solid as this side. Right, there we go. So that's the Cure Rust on there. It's just starting to do its stuff. I've put Cure Rust over the whole lot purely because I don't want to leave it bare metal, because it will start to go rusty if there's any damp in the air. So the Cure Rust will protect it for a bit, but we'll Scotch Brite that off afterwards, and anywhere that wasn't rusty, it will take the Cure Rust back off, and then we'll primer it. But it's not bad actually. I've run that dehumidifier through the night now. So I run it from sort of midnight to 4:30 in the morning, which is, I'm on Octopus Go, so I get cheap energy tariff then. And yeah, 50% humidity. It works a treat when the weather's okay, but obviously, as I found during the winter, it's pretty useless. good job done there. On to the next stage. Right, so the next step on the sills, I've just gone along and Scotch brighted it all now. After the cure rust, I've given that 24 hours to dry. The next coat on will be an etch primer, and really that's just for going on where there's bare metals. So etch primer has phosphoric acid in it, which helps it adhere to or etch to the metal surface. So if you just go over with normal primer and it doesn't have any acid in it, it won't etch to the surface. So we'll go over with a light coat of etch primer and then normal primer. I've just given it a wipe off with panel wipe. I thought I'd just show this quickly just before I show you the car masked up. This stuff is really useful. So it's pre-taped masking paper. So you literally just peel off, or you go along the edge you want to mask. It makes life so much easier. You just mask up the edge and then go up with a pair of scissors. Or sometimes I'll just tear it, depending how neat I'm being. And there you get a perfect masked edge. And if you want to extend it, you just pull it down and then you can tape that on the bottom of the panel. But it works, I'll tell you what, it makes life so much easier. It's quite good because it re-sticks as well. Costs a few more quid than just normal masking paper and masking tape, but it makes life a lot easier. Let's go over and look at the car. So this is after cure rusting, Scotch brighting, panel wipe, and there's still some, I didn't take all the cure rust off, so that's why it's still brown a little bit underneath there. You can see I've gone to town on masking it up because this will be the masking next for the stone chip, and it is so messy, stone chip is. I will cover up more of the floor when I stone chip, but you can see I've gone to the first sort of rib on the floor pan, so that's where we'll be stone chipping to. But like I say, first coat is etch primer, then etch primer. We will then seam seal across some of these edges, then primer, then stone chip, then body colour. I think you can go body colour straight on top of the stone chip. I'll have to check. Can't remember whether I'll primer it first. Let me get some etch primer on and we'll see what that looks like. Right, there is the etch primer on. Before anyone worries and comments, I've not sprayed the bodywork. The masking tape is the same colour as the bodywork. It's like the same blue. So the bodywork is all masked off. But yeah, it's looking all right. It's only etch primer, isn't it? So let's not get too excited. Right, on to the next step, which is seam sealing. I don't go mad with this. What I try and do is go for kind of a factory finish. Luckily, a factory finish wasn't very neat, so it literally looks like it's just been painted on with a brush. So this is grey stripe U-pole brushable seam sealer. It's pretty good actually. If you want a little tip, because this goes hard in the can if you're not careful, every time I use it, rather than put it away and store it that way up, if you store it that way up, the seam sealer goes to the bottom and it seals off the bottom. Seems to work for me anyway. We're going to need, or we'll use some masking tape, and yeah, again, it's just a case of masking where you don't want to get the brushable seam sealer and then just brushing it on where you want it. And what I try and do is I put it on and then I try and complete the whole lot in one brush stroke, and then it kind of looks OEM factory. Let me show you. So there we done. I've just done the back here. Obviously where I wheeled it off, I knew where the seam sealer was before. So it was over the end here, and I did observe it. It looked like it had just been done with one brush stroke. So I've masked up down the side here. Obviously I don't want it on this bit. Put it on, and then you just go down with one brush stroke and finish, and then leave it. Yeah, rest of the seal's done now. I've just got to do the front like that, and then we will be ready for primer, and then the next step will be stone chip. So we're going to use Gravitex Plus. It's an underbody coating stone chip protector, and you can overpaint it. It's by U-Pol. I've got, this is black, I think, comes in different colours, comes in white as well, and you can colour it as well. So if you're maybe spraying the whole car, you can colour this Gravitex, but I'm not doing that because I'm spraying with rattle cans basically. But I've used this before on Sprout and on PL, and it's worked really well. I just get these cheap guns off eBay. They're like a tenner or something like that. It's hardly worth cleaning them up afterwards, but I will do. I've got a spare. I always didn't want to drop it. Although they're adjustable, or that one is anyway, you can adjust air feed. I always find they suck through too much, so I end up crimping the end just to restrict the amount of Gravitex going through to get the right finish. The most important bit here is when you spray this, it just gets everywhere. I think I'm just going to look on the instructions. It does give you a bit of guidance for what type of finish you want. So if you want orange peel finish, it says 3 to 5 bar, 40 to 70 psi. And if you want a fine finish, then you've got to mix it with some cellulose thinner, and then 60 to 70 psi. I always go for the orange peel finish. It's the most forgiving. And you basically just splatter on it. It's really, really messy though, so it's really important to make sure your area is nicely masked off, everything's covered. Even though I've covered this, I'll tell you what, I'll find stone chip on the ceiling, in the house, in your hair. It just gets everywhere. So you need gloves, goggles, preferably, yeah, either wraparound goggles or a mask, because it just splashes everywhere. So let's get that done. You build this up in light coats. Do not bang it all on in one go, because if you smell it, there's quite a lot of, I suppose it's solvents in there. And if you spray it on too thick, it just cracks, because you get the solvent drying underneath the top coat. So you need to splatter it on in thin coats and just build them up gradually. And if you do that, I'll probably do 3 or 4 thin coats and let them dry probably 20 minutes, half an hour between each coat. Might even leave longer than that. We'll see how it goes. I'll let you know in a minute. But thin coats, build them up gradually, and you'll get a nice finish. You will see I have masked off the outside part of the sill, just because, well, originally there's no stone chip on here, it's all smooth, but I want to leave this outer bit smooth. I don't mind stone chipping the flutes because they do get damaged by stone chips, but this side bit here, that's more sort of cosmetic, so that will just go body colour and be left smooth rather than have stone chip on it. Right, that's literally first coat done, very light dusting. We're going to leave that 20 minutes, half an hour now.
Now you need to do it. Right, and then pick it up. Ready?
Right then, we're on the third and final coat. Coverage is going pretty well. Yeah, third coat is all it will need. The only bit that gets difficult is, obviously with it being black, it just gets really, really dark. It's one of those really, really dark blacks as well, so you don't get any shadows or anything like that. It's really difficult to see where you've missed bits.